All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. And today we're going to be breaking down Dana White Contender Series week number 2. So real quick, before we hop right in, let me just pull up the other screen. I didn't get a chance to do it just yet. So we could have the fights right in front of us. And there we go. So if you tuned in last week for my show for the Contender Series, we had some good spots, some misses, but I try to get my stuff out really early. I try to do my tape really early so that way, as soon as the line's open, I can make plays. I can post them for you guys because if you don't already follow me at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter, the second I make my plays, I post them. Right before this, I played Vicente Luque, put it up right away. So if you want my picks, if you want my Dana White Contender Series picks, that's where I make them first. And then I try to make these episodes super early. Normally it's on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But this week I did Thursday because I have to move tomorrow, unfortunately. So, too busy to do a show tomorrow, but today works too. And, the earlier the better. So quick recap for last week. I played Joe Pyfer minus 115 for 1.2 units. Hit that one. He looked amazing. Could have been like a minus 250 favorite there. Then we had Dos Santos plus 225. Terrible dog play on my part. Completely disregarded the grappling of Turcage. Didn't realize Dos Santos' counter grappling is that terrible, and just terrible bet there. Then I hit Alessandro Costa. That one was cool because I played him at minus 140, and I think he closed at like minus 280. So that was dope. I only played him for 1 unit though, so didn't even win back a full unit there, just 0.71. And then I played Pyfer by sub at plus 800 for just an eighth of a unit. And that came damn close in that first round, right? He had his back. He was beating on him. Got pretty close. Didn't get it. Doesn't count. But we finished the night with a profit of 0.63 units. So, not great. Hopefully we can do much better this week. But a win is a win, right? So without further ado, let's get right into this card. So for this first one, honestly, it's like they pulled these two out of like a clone tank, honestly. Like they both remind me so much of each other. Here we've got Francis Marshall versus Connor Matthews. Marshall is 5-0, 5'9", training out of Pellegrino MMA. And then Matthews on the other side, he's 5-0 as well, 5'8", 71-inch reach, and he trains out of Joe Lozon MMA. So I'm going to pull up my notes as I talk right now, but for me, this one, so first of all, there's very little information, right? On Connor Matthews, I think his entire career is like 4 or 5 minutes long. So as it is, there's very little info to work on. So you can't be risking so much money, right? You can't be making big bets on fights like this because you don't know. You don't have enough information on what Matthews is going to look like. And you just got to be careful in spots like that. All right, so my notes are up, and let me run through it real quick. Yeah, so my original lean was Matthews, right? He's got a good camp. His striking is pretty good. He's slick in the pocket, good combos, good jab, good front kick, but he's very hittable. Now, with his offensive grappling, he's not really getting takedowns most of the time in his fights. He's catching their feet or just pushing them down. So we're not learning much about his wrestling. Then his offensive BJJ, he's got 4 sub wins, 3 rear nakeds, 1 neck crank. And I would say his jiu-jitsu is probably a bit better here. I think he's a slicker practitioner here for BJJ. He takes the back really nicely. He does good work there, and he's never been submitted himself. Now, a few things to note. Matthews has never been to a decision, not even as an amateur. He's never been out of round 1 as a pro. You can, like I said, you can literally watch his entire career in like 5 minutes. He's got a win over the legend, Jay Ellis, who's now currently 16-1 105-0. And I combined their opponents' records for this week for all the fights. And for Matthews, his opponents' combined records are 19 wins, 115 losses because of Jay Ellis, and 0 draws. So, he's facing terrible competition. The fights are lasting very short, and he looks good, but like he doesn't look special. He doesn't look like anything crazy. And then Marshall on the other side, he's a little bit more of your meat and potatoes kind of guy, but he's a bit more trusted in my opinion. His opponents' combined records are 38 and 38. He's 1 inch taller. He's 8 years younger. He's 23 years old. He's also a great grappler. His offensive grappling is pretty good. The takedowns are solid. The double leg is great. The top control is good. He's also a bit hittable, but his hands are solid. His output is great. His jab is good. The 1-2's there. Cardio, Marshall has shown it. He's been able to go 15 minutes, whereas Matthews, like I said, he's never been out of round 1 as a professional. Now, I looked it up. Marshall, he's got a wrestling background, but it's just high school. And he did go 15 minutes with a vet in Trujillo in I think it was his last fight. So, he's beaten. Also, he's been crushing cans as well, but the cans are of slightly better quality, I would say. So, yeah, I like Marshall here. I do think he wins this fight. I think it's going to be a super close one for sure. But I just feel like if he can extend it out of the first round, like, what is Matthews going to look like? Like, is he going to be exhausted? I feel like he probably is going to be exhausted. But we're going to have to see. He does train out of a good camp. Lozon has a lot of good things to say about him. So you want to be careful here. But I do think Matthews should. I mean, I do think Marshall should win this fight. I think the line is lined appropriately. It opened backwards, but it's flipped since. So we got Connor Matthews at -115 now, and we've got Marshall at -105 now. And yeah, I'm going to wait. So right now the line is moving towards Matthews, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to play Marshall, maybe by decision, but I'll probably just play him money line because, look, how does Matthews win this fight, right? Is he going to get a first-round finish against Marshall? I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if he did. Marshall's never lost, not as a pro or as an amateur, whereas Matthews has 2 losses as an amateur. So I don't see Matthews finishing him. And is Matthews going to be able to grind for decision? I haven't been shown that yet. So I'm probably going to play Francis Marshall, just a unit at whatever it ends up being, but I'm going to wait because I think I'm going to get plus money there. So I do like Francis Marshall to win that fight. Moving on to the second one. This one's not going to take that long to break down because, really what is there to break down? But here we've got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Danilo Suzart. Acosta 6-0, 30 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. And I have him training out of Ultimate Combat with a K. On the other side, Danilo Suzart. Suzart, 9-1-0, 31 years old, 6 feet tall, so he's given up 4 inches in height. I do not have a reach for him. And, he's an interesting guy. He trains out of Life MMA. And when I started watching him, I watched his tape, his last fight, his Aries FC title fight. And he was a huge underdog there. Plus 380, I believe. He went 5 rounds to win that belt. But the guy he fought was terrible, got exhausted, and he beat him because the guy got tired. But watching him, he reminded me a lot of Carlos Boy Felipe. And then I looked at his Instagram, and they actually do train together or have trained together. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think Acosta should roll here. When I predicted the odds, I thought Acosta would open up at -300. And what happened? He opened up at -350. So it was close. Look, he's got tremendous size. He's got a boxing background. He uses his length well. He's got a good jab that he uses. He puts together good combinations. I don't like when he winds up too much, but he doesn't really do that all that often. He keeps his striking crisp, and he uses that boxing background. Both these guys are regional champions. Acosta, heavyweight champion in LFA. Suzart, heavyweight champion in Aries FC. And if I had to compare who they fought for their title fights, I think that Acosta had the much more difficult fight, although they both had similar matchups. Both fought grapplers and both are strikers. So that was interesting. But yeah, like I just mentioned, neither of these guys are grapplers. They're both strikers at heart. And because of that, I got to think that Acosta's going to beat him up. I don't know if he's going to get a KO. Suzart's never been knocked out. He's only lost by decision. But I do think Acosta's probably going to find that chin. You look at the records for their opponents, Acosta definitely fighting the better competition. 43 wins, 24 losses, 0 draws. And then for Suzart, it's 19, 13, and 0. So Acosta's definitely got the better competition. He's 1 year younger. He's much bigger, 80-inch reach, 4 inches taller. And just a better striker, in my opinion. You look at Suzart, he's throwing a lot of loopy stuff. I hate the overhand right. The jab is good when he's using it, but every strike has a big windup behind it pretty much. And because of that, he's leaving himself very open, very defensively irresponsible. So, yeah, I got to go with Acosta here. Makes sense that he's a -350 favorite. I wonder if the line's going to go much further, but I'll probably play him by KO depending what they put that line out. If it's like -120, though, I'm probably just going to skip this fight. or I'll see what the under is. I don't know, but yeah, I like Acosta here. I'm gonna move right along. So this one was super interesting to me, especially the line movement and people's take, honestly. So here we've got Billy Goff versus Shimon Smotritsky. Goff is 7-2-0, 24 years old, 5'10", 72-inch reach, training out of Dexter MMA. And then Smotritsky is 8-1-0, 21 years old, 6'2", so he's got, 4 inches in height over this guy. 74-inch reach, so he's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he does train out of Syndicate MMA now, so he's got a really good camp behind him as well. So if you guys remember Smotritsky, he was on the Contender series, I think it was last season, against Mike Mallet, and he went for a takedown. Mallet hit a beautiful guillotine, and the fight was over. And I think a lot of people are using that to like kind of be against Smotritsky here, but it's like, why? The guy's young. He made his debut on the Contender series, and he made a mistake sticking his head out and got submitted. But like the takedown was good other than that. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of just disregarding him. And then he came out in his last fight to Smotritsky, and he fought a UFC veteran who I didn't even realize was a veteran until I was listening to the commentary. I think it was in Russian. I don't remember. And like I understand. And they said that Macario was like a UFC vet. So I looked it up, and lo and behold, he was on the Contender series, made it all the way to the finals, lost to Leonardo Santos in the finals, still got a contract, fought in the UFC 4 times, won once, lost 3 times, got cut. But, you know, it was a good fight for Smotritsky to kind of get an idea of where he actually stands, you know, like how good is he really? Like, is he that bad that, you know, he's going to get guillotined by people like Mallet all the time? Or is he actually a good fighter? And I think the Macario fight showed that Smotritsky is a good fighter. And at 21 years old, I think he's going to be a menace. He's got all the measurables in his advantage here. 4 inches taller, 2-inch reach advantage, 3 years younger. You look at their combined records of their opponents, it's similar. Smotritsky's is 36-16-0, while Goff is 41-14-0, so slightly better. And Goff, you know, he's had his own accolades as well. He's a CES double champ for middleweight and welterweight. I mean, he didn't beat the most, you know, he didn't beat the best competition to get there, to get those titles, but nonetheless, it's an impressive thing to do. You know, not a lot of guys on the scenes or on the regional scenes are picking up more than one title in the same promotion. So, you know, you do have to take something from that. Real quick, I just want to pull up Billy Goff's competition. All right, because I know Smotritsky's hasn't been great either, but you look at the one for Goff. So Marty Navis was 5-0 when they fought. Guys 5-2-0 now. Gary Boletto Jr. was 7-2-0 when they fought. 7-3-0 now. Gary's pretty good. Justin Sumter, that was a good fight, and I think Sumter's pretty good as well. And you look at that fight, and where was the success that Sumter, like, where did Sumter find his success? The grappling, when he was able to reverse Goff, right? Goff's got pretty good wrestling. He's the one who got Sumter down, but it wasn't even a takedown. It was a caught kick, right? And then, but he did get a good trip against Boletto Jr., and he got a slick trip on Lally as well in his fight against him. But, you know, he got reversed when he was on top against Sumter, and then Sumter took his back, and he was working him. And then you go back on his record, right? And I wanted to go back to the Kimran Lachinov fight. If you remember, guys, Lachinov was on the he was on the Ultimate Fighter season 29, and he's a good fighter. So I watched back that fight, and where was the success that Lachinov found? It was actually a 5-round title fight, by the way. Lachinov wrestled him. He out-grappled him, grapple-fucked him. That's how he won that fight. So can Smotritsky do that as well? I think he can. You know, you hear all week, Smotritsky's wrestling is not that great. It's not that great. It's not that great. I disagree. I think he's got a good wrestling background. He's got a good body lock takedown, slick trips. His top control, I would say, is better than Goff's. And I think on the feet as well, he's got the advantages. He's got the length, the reach. He's got a really good jab. He uses that length. He puts together good straight combos. Goff, you know, on the other side, he's also a really good striker. He strikes in flurries. He's got a good output, great jab, good 1-2, slick combinations, good body work. He mixes the targets well. But so does Smotritsky. He also mixes the targets well. He's also got good combos. He's also got fast hands. So on the feet, I think it's going to be close. I think Smotritsky's got too many advantages. And then in the grappling, I think it's Smotritsky with the edge here, not Goff. So you're giving me Smotritsky at plus 195. I mean, I can't not play it. I played it for a half unit just because I'm a little nervous. I do think Goff is really good, and I might get to the full unit on Smotritsky. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to see. But I do like him at plus 195. When I predicted the line, I thought it was going to open at like minus 125 in his favor. So when it opened up at, I think he opened up as the dog. Let me double check. So when it opened up at plus 125, I was surprised. And then when it moved all the way to plus 195, I was very surprised. So, yeah, I did play Smotritsky already at plus 195, and I'm probably going to top up on that a little bit later on in the week. We're going to have to see. But moving right along. Oh, right. This is a really interesting one. And honestly, in my opinion, I'm not sure if it's this one or Acosta or the Acosta fight, but I think this is probably the most low-level fight on the card. Here we've got Shannon Ross versus Vinicius Salvador. Shannon Ross is 13, 5-0. He's 33 years old, 5'6", and he's training out of Fighting Fit Physiotherapy. And on the other side, we've got Salvador, who's 13, 4-0. Do not have an age for him. And all right, yes, so there's no height listed for him either, but I did a little bit of investigating myself. So he's got no height listed, but based off his opponent's numbers and how he sizes up with them, I'd say he's around 5'8" or 5'9". So I do think he's going to be quite a bit bigger than Ross, who's 5'6", right? I don't have a reach, though, for him, so unfortunately I can't compare that. But I don't have a reach for Ross either. And then Salvador, he's training out of Ribas Family Gym, so he's training under Amanda Ribas's father, who trains Ribas as well. So, good camp. But then, all right, so this is where it gets kind of weird, right? So you would think training under someone like Ribas, under her father, Salvador should have good BJJ, right? Like elite BJJ, elite takedowns. No, his grappling sucks. His grappling is rough. His takedown entry is ugly. His takedown defense is weak. He kind of just falls on his butt. He's got 0 submission wins. He's been subbed once by himself. And I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing the sub game on him. So that's already like, why? How are you training there? And your sub game and your grappling game is just terrible. And then his striking, it's far improved. It's far improved in his more recent fights. It's become more straight. He mixes targets well. He has a good front kick, but my God, are his punches loopy. It literally looks like this, man. It literally looks like this. Like the Nagano-Rosenstruck combo. Like, that's literally what his striking looks like. And boy, is it terrible. So because of that, I do think Ross is going to have an advantage on the feet. Ross is much slicker. Ross is much cleaner. Ross keeps it straight. He's good in the pocket. And if Salvador is doing that, if he's winding up like that, leaving himself open, I think Shannon Ross is going to hop right in the pocket and just let it rip in his face. So on the feet, I give it to Ross. Now, in the grappling, you got to, I don't know. Ross also has horrible takedown defense. His offensive grappling is pretty good. He's got nice trips at least. His striking defense is also pretty bad, so he is also hittable himself. And he does have one sub loss. And one other thing to note is he hasn't fought since 2020, whereas Salvador has. He's fought in 2022, so we don't exactly know what we're getting out of Ross here. So there's that big question mark. Because of that, I definitely would not play Ross at minus, what is it? minus 225 and growing right now. He opened as a plus 150 dog. And I thought that was more accurate because while he is the better striker here, it's going to be the much smaller man. Hasn't fought since 2020. Not as good of a camp, at least as far as we know. And his wrestling is also weak. If Salvador does end up having grappling that he just hasn't been using, it's not going to be difficult to take Ross down. But then it goes the other way as well. So, yeah, I mean, I lean Ross. But at these odds, I might end up playing Salvador. We'll see. He's plus 190 now. I don't really want to play him just yet. But, I agree with the bookies when they opened him at minus 175. I predicted that the line would open at minus 205. So I wasn't far off. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the pick's going to be – got to make a pick. So I guess the pick's going to be Salvador. But it's going to be tough and close. If we were in 2020 right now, I'd probably be leaning Ross. But I'm going to go with Salvador. And then moving on, we're up to the last fight of the card, the main event of the evening for Dana White Contender Series week number 2. And this is my main bet of the card. This is definitely my main bet of the card. So here we've got Charlie Campbell versus Chris Duncan. Campbell is 6'1" 27 years old, 6 feet tall. So he's got 2 inches in height here, 72-inch reach, and he's training out of Longo Weidman MMA. On the other side, you've got Chris Duncan, who's 8'1" 29 years old, 5'10", giving up 2 inches in height, 72-inch reach, and he is training out of American Top Team. So this one is super interesting, right? On one side, you've got Charlie Campbell training at Longo Weidman. That's why he's got so much hype behind him. He's kind of been on a run ever since he fought Noah Dung in Bellator. And, he was a big underdog there. I think he was like plus 250 or something. And when he picked up the W, he started picking up a bit of steam. And eventually he fought, what was it? Yeah, so his last fight was Guilherme dos Santos, right? And he knocked him out in the first round. Fought Vadim Ogre the fight before that, won pretty easily. He's got nice kicks, fast hands. He mixes targets well. I hate the spinning stuff. There's a lot of sloppy things, a lot of wound up overhand rights. The kicks are good and the knees are great. 4 KO wins, never been knocked out himself. But striking defense-wise, I think he leaves himself open a lot. The takedown defense isn't great, but he does get up quick. And his wrestling himself is pretty good. He trains with guys like Sterling, so you got to imagine his wrestling is pretty solid. But, it's not like it's not amazing. You can take him down. And I do think that Duncan could take him down if he wants to. Now, on the other side, you look at Duncan. His last fight was against Vyacheslav Boryshev on the Contender Series. Not his last fight, his second to last fight. And, you watch that fight, and while he was winning. So Duncan was winning the early exchanges. Slava picked it up in round 1 towards the end, started winning the exchanges. And then Duncan mixed up the wrestling. It was very solid. Got him down good, held him down well. And, he won the first round that way, in my opinion. I do think the wrestling is open for him here. And then I think in the striking, I think he's going to be better here than Campbell. I like his combos. I like his kicks. The jab is really good. The combos, the striking is solid in general. 1-2 is very good. He mixes the targets great, and the output is really good. So, yeah, I like Duncan. I think he's better everywhere here. He's just giving up a bit of size, but I don't think it's really going to matter. And, Campbell's at a great camp. He's training with Sterling, but Duncan's literally at American Top Team. He's got so many bodies there to train with. So, yeah, give me Duncan. I think Duncan's going to win this fight probably by decision, but he's an underdog at plus 145, plus 142 now. Might as well just play it that way. And then my guy Eric bets fights in the chat. Thank you for tuning in, man. I appreciate you, brother. You guys should check out Eric's channel as well. He posts a ton of content and he kills it week after week. Make sure to check out Eric's stuff too. But yeah, that's it for the card for Dana White's Contender Series. Got 2 units on Chris Duncan, a half unit on Smotritsky. And yeah, feel free to hit me up on Twitter if you guys have any questions. And I'll post any other picks I make on Twitter as well at Couch Warrior Pod. But right now it's just that 2 units on Duncan and the half on Smotritsky. And yeah, that's it, guys. In 4 minutes, I'm going to be going live to break down CFFC 111. So if you're interested in the regional scene, pull up. But if not, good luck, guys, and I will see you guys another time.